On crypto. You know, we've been covering it on the way down, and now I want to stop talking about it as it goes up. So Bitcoin prices have seemed to stabilize a little bit. What do you think about this move we've seen in crypto over the past few weeks? And are you concerned about more of a sell-off and that pressuring the broader market a little bit?
Yeah, so crypto is a real tough asset class for me. Again, as a fundamental analyst, there's no cash flow, there's no dividends, there's no income. So it's really hard for me to tell you what the actual value of crypto really is. I can't tell you if Bitcoin's worth, 200,000 or 2,000. And as you just said, the volatility has just been incredible. I mean, people forget that not too long ago, October 6th, it was up 34% on the year. It was over $125,000. Today, we're around 87,000. We're down 7 or 8%, year to date. So there's a lot of volatility there. When you have an asset like this, it becomes an asset class of sediment, what people think about it. And what drove it higher earlier in this year was pretty much record inflows into that asset class or that particular investment vehicle. And more recently, you've all of a sudden started to see heavy outflows from that space. And that's really what's driving it. And again, I really can't tell you if it's up from here or down from here, to be honest.
Okay, welcome to the video. Topic of this video is going to be Bitcoin. It's just talking about the volatility of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was up over 100,000, like 125,000 per Bitcoin. Now it's down to around 86,000, hovering at about 87,000. So, as he was saying, it is kind of hard to put a value on Bitcoin because it's just as valuable as, who's willing to pay for the Bitcoin. And then we do know that there's a limited amount of Bitcoin that can be mined. So it's, as they're going to say, it's not like a stock or anything like that. It's a cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrencies are fairly new. So they're still trying to find their footing and their way within the economy. Do know that, the whole thing around like cryptocurrency is to kind of definance away from the traditional finance system and like the traditional banking systems and stuff like that. But we do know banks are starting to incorporate cryptocurrency, and certain stores are accepting cryptocurrency, and you can even use cryptocurrency with certain online merchants to make purchases. So we'll have to see exactly what happens with Bitcoins. There's always going to be dips, same as in the stock market and with stocks. There's always dips. So you have to really kind of see, if you reach a high with something, you have to see, okay, maybe there'll be a dip. Maybe I'll just take a little bit of profit here and keep a little steady stream of it, so that when it if it goes down, then I'll take a little loss, but I'm not going to really take a major loss because I was able to pull some profit out of it. So, it's definitely something that's kind of just skyrocketed. It's kind of hard to dollar cost average with, something that is, this amount that's typically used for like stocks. So, a lot of people just kind of missed the boat when it comes to Bitcoin. When it had that first big boom, and maybe when it had like the second big boom, but now we're well into a few years of Bitcoin being in existence, and as you see from the graph, it took a major dip in like March and April, then it went on a rise, and now it's taking another dip. So for some people, they're going to see this as a definite buying opportunity to get it under 100K, with the prospects of it, going back over 100K. So, but again, as they say, we it's the value of cryptocurrency is dependent on who is willing to actually spend on it, trade on it, and mine it, and the type of uses that it's going to be used for and what it's good for. But we'll let them continue.
All right, if a client comes to you and says, Larry, look, I got a little more money in my pocket. I want to put it to work. They say, Larry, I want to own gold or crypto. Where do you steer them and why?
So I would probably do gold, but gold as well has become an asset class of sediment. Obviously there are some fundamentals in gold because, you can use gold for different commercial reasons. But of late, that's been another one that's been driven by sentiment. And I think if you look on the horizon, things like the potential for some of the geopolitical concerns coming off the table, like Ukraine, Russia, that could put some downward pressure on the price of gold here in the near term.
And as real
Brian,
quick
can
here.
I just-
Yeah, go ahead. Hop in.
I just want to say the one word that pops into my head when it comes to Bitcoin is speculative. And yes, we have a scarcity issue, right? There's only so many units that are going to be created, but it's only worth whatever the next person is willing to pay for it, right? This is not like a stock that is generating revenue and earnings. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. Whereas gold is a store of value. Is Bitcoin really? I don't know. I still think it's a speculative investment.
Jen, I'm going to bring to life an emoji I've used before. What is like those praying hands? There we go. I think you were on the mark there.
You know, and I agree with what you were saying. You definitely have to know exactly what you're getting into when you put your money into an asset like this that's fairly new and it doesn't have, too many use cases other than being able to be traded and, all the things I listed earlier. Um, so you definitely want to be careful before you just kind of pour life savings or your hard-earned money into something like this. And as you were saying, it's not a stock to where, you get a dividend once, if the company does well. And you definitely just want to definitely be careful with how you invest your money into something like a cryptocurrency. And make sure you do a lot of research and know exactly how the cryptocurrency is going to be used and what are some of the future plans for said cryptocurrency, whether it's Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, no matter what it is, you just gotta know that it's not it's not really backed by anything. It's going off the idea that the next person is going to be willing to pay this amount in order to obtain a Bitcoin or Ethereum or a Solana.
As last word to you here, what I don't like about this move in Bitcoin, it hasn't been that convincing off the lows. I mean, it seems like people are nibbling at it, but it hasn't been that burst back over 90,000.
Right, and the question is, has Bitcoin bottomed here? Is this going to turn into a V-shaped recovery? And most analysts are cautious about that right now. It does not seem like this bounce is that meaningful. There are some resistance levels that analysts are taking a look at when it comes to the next following weeks. But I will say that Sean Farrell of Fundstrat said, look, the media has turned very bearish when it comes to Bitcoin. So perhaps that's a counter signal, according to him.
Okay. So that's pretty much it. Just know what you're getting into before you get into it. Don't just dive into something because it's a trend. Because this trend is pretty much sailed. I do think Bitcoin will recover and get back to where it was at like some of the highs, like 100K. I feel like as soon as they announce that Bitcoin could be used for this or Bitcoin could be used for that, it'll sell right back up. And trust me, it's people out there who are working with cryptocurrencies, working with Web3, who are developing things that are going to use these type of cryptocurrencies as either forms of payment or forms of trade. So we'll just have to see what happens and where Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is headed in general. But again, if you like my content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is Justin Paul. Peace.